What's up, guys? It's me, PlayerPlayzZ here, and I'm here with another reaction video, but it's not like a Mr. Nightmare. It's type of creepypasta. Now, I'm just gonna say I used to watch Paw Patrol all the time when I was little, and I just stumbled upon this video, so I think I should make a reaction video. And this used to be one of my favorite shows when I was younger, and hopefully this isn't gonna hurt me too much. Let's go. Also got my popcorn, my peanut butter and jelly. I see Suicide Squidward, Tweety Bird, Smurfs. The Shadow Reader. Alright.
My name is Officer Michael, and I've worked with the ABPD for about 10 or so years now. It's not the most exciting job in the world, but it helped me for the bills and put food on the table, so I guess I really can't complain. With that being said, my job usually was never easy for me, or anybody else for that matter. There were days that I had to work in 18-hour shift because of all the calls at the station would get for simple little mishaps. Some of these would include those small things like cats and trees, small fires, and the occasional missing person every now and then. Like I said before, my job wasn't very exciting. However, there was one small group of puppies that honestly turned my time at work from exhausting to amazing. These group of puppies were called the Paw Patrol. To say that these pups were a blessing would be an understatement. These pups, at least to me, were a godsend from the heavens above. These pups, Chase the police pup, Marshall the fire dog, Zuma the aqua pup, Rocky the recycling pup, Sky the air pup, and Rubble the construction pup were a huge help in keeping Adventure Bay at peace. Plus, their 10-year-old leader Ryder was a very mature and smart kid. Not only did he form the group into what they are now, but heck, he even made the pup base and tower. Hell, I even got the opportunity to meet the Paw Patrol in person. And let me say, they're a really great group of pups. They're well-mannered, very polite, respectful to their authorities, and they sure love to play around. I can't tell you how many times they wanted me to stay and play fetch with them. Now, you might think that with the Paw Patrol going around and filling out in our duties, there might be some resentment by the other cops, firefighters, and so forth, for them taking away some of the opportunities to make a little bit more money. But that certainly was not the case at all. For years, we had broken our backs doing some stupid small jobs, but now we had the opportunity to actually focus more on actual cases. So yeah, the Paw Patrol were truly amazing. However, all ended about a year back. And let me just say that what happened was truly terrible.
What happened?
I was in the office when this all happened. I was busy getting some much-needed paperwork done when all of a sudden, the chief busted out of his office in a complete panic. He told us all to stop what we were doing and get ourselves to the Adventure Bay Forest area ASAP. When I asked him what was the problem, he told me that he would explain everything when he got there. So I got up, got my police jacket on, made my way to my car, and drove down to the Adventure Bay Forest area. It took about 30 minutes to get there, but once we all arrived, we got out of our cars and made our way towards the entrance to the forest. Once we all got there, I noticed that Ryder, Chase, Sky, and Rubble looked very scared and very worried. I walked up to them and asked them what was the problem. "It's our pups, Marshall, Zuma, and Rocky," Ryder said with a worried look on his face. "What about them? What's the problem?" I asked. "Rocky, Zuma, and Marshall went out to go for a swim, as well as help Rocky with his aquaphobia about 4 hours back," Chase began. "But they haven't came back yet. We tried to contact them, but they haven't answered. We tried looking for them ourselves, but for some reason we can't seem to track their collars at all. We tried searching some more with our vehicles, but the forest was just too dense and stick to even keep looking around, so we had to call you guys up. Don't worry, Paw Patrol, we'll find them and bring them back safely. They probably forgot to take off their collars while they went swim short-circuit them out. They're most likely still at the pond swimming around, I said in a reassuring manner. Ryder thanked me for the service that I was doing, and I happily accepted it. After that, I made my way back to the group of armed police officers at the forest entryway. The Commander-in-Chief, Officer Marcus, started grouping us in pairs of 2 for a search party. Once he was done with that, he started assigning parts of the forest to each group of officers. Me and my partner, Katie, were assigned to the main pathway of the forest. We both immediately entered the pathway and started our search for the missing pups. 5 minutes turned to 10 minutes, then to 30, then to an hour, and then to 2 hours. We kept searching as hard as we could, not leaving, quite literally, any stone unturned. After about 3 hours of searching, the sky began to darken. My partner and I immediately pulled out our flashlights and kept going. After about a minute of walking, I felt something become wrapped around my ankle.
Oh,
I looked at my foot and shined my light at what had caught my foot. What I saw made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up straight.
What?
On my foot was one of the pup's collars. It looked like it was yanked off of something, or in this case, someone's body.
Oh.
The plastic clasp that held the collar together was practically snapped off one of its edges.
Oh my god.
The main badge that identified the specific pup and what they did was smashed to bits, with the front image scratched so badly in numerous places that it made it almost impossible to identify whose it was, if the collar hadn't been there, at least. There was also trace amounts of blood that stained a good portion of the collar.
Oh my.
I looked at the collar and then to my partner, who had a look of worry plastered on her face. I immediately grabbed my police radio and dialed the chief of police. Chief Marcus, this is Officer Michael. Hey, did you find anything? Did you happen to find the pups? Negative on the pups, Chief. However, I did find Marshall's collar. However, it's covered in blood. Alright, I'll call a bus. Keep searching, officer. Yes, sir. 10-4. I put my radio away and kept looking around the dense forest. Now the sun had completely gone down at this point, and the whole forest was covered in darkness with only our flashlights illuminating the place. Me and my partner immediately started searching once again, and after a few minutes of searching, we found Zuma and Rocky's collars as well, but in worse shape than the other collar had been. The collars had not only been smashed to pieces, but also had been torn to shreds, like a claw torn through the fabric like butter, with like a knife with butter. I felt anxiety build up in me as I pressed on searching, hoping and praying to God that the pups were safe. It didn't take long for me to get a small whiff of an iron smell. My partner and I continued to follow the path, with the smell getting stronger and stronger with each step. Then without any warning, I wound up slipping on a small puddle of some. My partner had rushed up to me to see if I was alright, and thankfully I was. But once I shined my light on myself to inspect for any injuries, I saw a large amount of blood splatter all over my bulletproof vest, and a large puddle underneath me. I quickly got up and inspected myself for any wounds, but there were none. I shined my flashlight at the puddle of blood I had slipped on, and noticed a small trail of the crimson-red liquid leading towards a small clearing nearby. I hesitated to go, as I expected the worst to be there, but I knew that I had to. Slowly walking towards the clearing, guns cocked and loaded, we stepped into the clearing. I immediately called out, Marshall? Zuma? Rocky? Are you there? If you are, give us a bark. It was then and there that I heard a small, weak moan coming about 10 feet away from me. I shined my light towards where the sound was, and my heart sunk to the bottom of my chest. Holy shit! That was the only words that I could honestly make out at what was presented to me. Less than 10 feet away were the bodies of Zuma, Rocky, and Marshall. Or at least what was left of them. Zuma's head was hanging from one of the tree branches. His head had been ripped straight from his body, with his spinal cord holding the dangling pup's head firmly onto the branch. Zuma's face was mangled and disfigured. One of the eyes had been stabbed by a sharp rock. Blood and eye juice pouring out of the mutilated eye socket. His lower jaw had been yanked and stretched to the point that it was completely dislodged from his skull, only being connected by a small slab of skin that hadn't been torn in the stretching process. His body lay in a bloody heap below his severed head, untouched and still intact. Rocky had been beaten numerous times with what I assume was a very large boulder, his head being the main target of the brutal attack. Rocky's skull had completely split in half from the blood trauma, with chunks of brain seeping out of the cracked skull.
Oh my God.
The rest of the body was covered in teeth marks and chunks of...
Oh my God. Who would do that to the pups? Give me a second here. Okay, I'm good.
Skin and muscle tissue removed, revealing the bones. Marshall had been completely ripped in half, with intestines, kidneys, and other organs exposed. I immediately vomited after seeing this disgusting, graphic madness. My partner immediately called for backup on our radio. As I ran over to the pups, checked for any signs of life. Obviously, Zuma and Rocky were both dead at this point. However, Marshall was a different story altogether. I had made my way towards him and went to check his pulse. To my shock and surprise, he still had one.
Oh, thank God.
He was also panting very heavily. I remember hearing him moan and whimper in pain as he locked eyes with me. I almost started bawling right then and there as I saw that he was still conscious. He then whispered to me, Fine, my legs. I honestly didn't want to leave his side, so I called out to my partner to go and search his missing lower half, which she found dumped next to a bush. It didn't take long for an ambulance to get where we were. Zuma and Rocky were pronounced dead on arrival. No surprise, with Marshall being rushed to the ER for emergency treatment. However, he passed away during surgery about 2 hours later.
Oh my no!
I normally don't cry during emergencies like this, but that day, I bawled my fucking eyes out like a fucking baby. There was obviously a funeral for the fallen pups. We, as well as everyone else in the town, were going to give them the best of the best. Each pup that had passed was buried in a coffin that was shaped and painted into the cars that they drove for each mission they went to, with flowers and candles surrounding them. Next to each coffin was a large wreath with each pup's image in the center of it. The mayor herself was the one who presided over the funeral for each pup. Needless to say, the funeral was brutal. There wasn't a single person that wasn't bawling their eyes out. Even I was crying. Ryder, Sky, and Rubble were devastated, to say the least. Rubble was bawling his little eyes out. Sky was a complete and utter wreck. Ryder didn't even look up at the coffins. And Chase... oh my gosh, Chase. He was completely inconsolable. He was the only one not seated in a chair. He was lying down next to Marshall's casket with a small plush bear in his paws. He was weeping hysterically, not bothering to leave the side of his murder. Anyone that would even try and do something to move him. He just sobbed some more and embraced the coffin like it was his life support. The funeral lasted for about 2.5 hours, to say the least. Everyone, including Ryder himself, giving a touching eulogy. They were all buried in the main hill of Venture Bay Cemetery, with large tombstones decorated with gemstones and images of each pups inscribed in a slab of stone. The funeral concluded with each of the deceased pups getting a 12-gun salute from me and the other cops, and the mayor revealing a large statues of each pup that had passed. After that day, there was a week's worth of mourning from everyone, including the rest of the Paw Patrol. I honestly would have joined in, but I had a suitcase that I had to work on. The day after the funeral, I was at my when I was startled by a large file being slammed into my desk. It was a new case that I was going to work on. I knew exactly what it was before I even opened it. The rest of the day was spent trying to find suspects. However, There were very few leads. The only person that we could even consider as a suspect was Mayor Humdinger. However, that lead wound up going cold real quick after a few questions and little evidence to back anything up. So yeah, we were pretty fucked, to say the least. Day after day, the case grew colder and colder. I myself took time to visit the remaining Paw Patrol gang and give them condolences and treats to the pups whenever I could. Now, I know that it may seem a little bit odd for me to do that, but the Paw Patrol were honestly family to me. I didn't have anybody else to call family in my life, and they honestly filled that void for me. However, all of that was torn apart once again that night.
Is that it?
It was 10:30 when my cell phone started ringing. I groggily got up and answered the phone. Hello? I said groggily. Please, help! I was immediately woken up after hearing that scream for help. I honestly didn't know who had yelled out, but I soon got my answer after waking up completely. We need help! Please! I need... kill... blood... The line died after that. I knew that the voice was Ryder. I immediately got up, grabbed my gun, my radio, my flashlight, and ran to my car. I didn't care that I was still in my pajamas. I knew that something was wrong, and I needed to get there as soon as I could. I got there in less than 10 minutes, and as I got out of my car, I immediately heard nothing but deafening silence. This was a bad sign. I carefully maneuvered my way, gun in hand, to the front door. It had been completely knocked off its hinges, with scratch marks covering the front door. I carefully peered inside the doorway, only to see the entire base completely trashed. Everything in the base was either smashed to bits or strewn across the floor in one of the rooms. There were also deep scratch marks that covered the walls like a morbid decoration, surrounding bloody prints leading from the kitchen area to the back door. I followed the footsteps, and it led to a large cave on the outskirts of town. I immediately quickly dialed the other officers. This is Officer Michael. We have a 1029, 1054, and possible 1063. I am currently at the outskirts of town near the main cave next to the forest. I need backup now. I carefully put away my radio and made my way into the cave.
Oh my God.
I honestly didn't want to get my flashlight in case somebody would see me. Deeper and deeper into the cave until I had noticed a lone torch burning brightly about 10 feet away from me. I walked over to it and grabbed it, and then I made my way deeper into the cave with the torch illuminating my way, my heart pounding in fear. After about 10 minutes, I soon came across a large circular room of some sort. It wasn't barricaded or anything. The walls were decorated with lit torches that lit up the room just enough for me to get a glimpse of what was inside. It was completely empty, with the exception of some gear and clothing in the middle of them. I walked up towards the discarded equipment and my stomach knotted up instantly. On the ground was the broken and tattered equipment and uniforms of the Paw Patrol, at least what was left of them. I immediately started freaking out at this. What the fuck was going on? I soon noticed a small door at the end of the large room. I walked up towards it and slowly opened the door. The room itself, compared to the other one I had just been in, was a lot smaller and darker. I turned on my flashlight and noticed a large rusted chain and a door next to it. I slowly approached the cage and peered inside. To my shock and surprise, it was Chase, but he was completely motionless. I quickly grabbed the cage door and yanked at it with all the force I could give, and opened it up. I immediately checked on Chase's pulse, and thankfully he wasn't dead, and checked some more, he wasn't injured either. I wanted to just grab Chase and run out of that cave as fast as I possibly could, but I knew I had to find the others. I slowly grabbed at the door knob and opened it. Just a crack. Oh, how I wish that I hadn't done that. In the room, there was a large, tar-covered beast. body. Its hands were long, blood-stained claws that warped and contorted with each passing move. The face, oh dear merciful goodness gracious, the face was the worst part. It had no features whatsoever, with the exception of a large, gaping maw with row after row of razor-sharp teeth. Next to the thing was the remains of Ryder, Sky, and Rubble. I couldn't contain myself anymore. I let out a small scream, which I immediately muted by covering my face as soon as it immediately started. However, it was already too late. The thing had noticed me at that time, and it let out a blood-curdling scream. I immediately slammed the door shut and barricaded it as best as I could. At this point, I was shut in fear. I felt the door being rammed continuously by the thing, its loud, demonic-sounding screaming growing louder and louder. I immediately didn't think twice. I grabbed Chase and started running at full force. All the while, that demonic monstrosity of a being smashed the door into pieces and was chasing after me with a speed that almost matched my own. I quickly pulled out my gun, turned around, and shot at the thing at least 6 times. However, it didn't seem to really affect the thing. It just got angrier and angrier and chased after me faster and faster. I dropped my gun and just continued running. I heard the thing getting closer and closer to me with each passing minute. I could almost feel its talons scraping up my back. In fact, even one of them went so far to claw me in the back, causing blood to ooze slowly out of the wound. In an attempt to try and save both my life and Chase's, I yanked at my golden crucifix off my neck and threw it at the beast. The crucifix made a perfect shot into the thing's throat. The thing stopped immediately and then started screaming and yelling as it clawed at its neck, trying to get the crucifix out of its mouth, but with no use. I took this much needed time to get the fuck out of that cave as soon as I could. Once I got to my car with Chase in my arms, I sped as quickly as I could down the road into my apartment and made my way inside. I quickly locked the door and went to check up on Chase. Thankfully, he didn't have very many injuries, with the exception of a few cuts and bruises. I immediately called up my boss and told him everything that had transpired. He told me that they had already pulled up to where I had been a few minutes back. I warned them at what I had saw. Be careful and arm yourself as best as you can. He said he would, and hung up immediately. The next day, I couldn't handle it anymore. I went up to my precinct with Chase in my hands, and I quit my job right then and there. I didn't give a crap. I had already been mentally fucked in the head after seeing that demonic monstrosity of a thing. And I immediately packed my things and moved out of town, just before I adopted Chase. He didn't honestly seem to care anymore. In fact, he didn't even want to talk about what had happened. I didn't really blame him, to be honest. I honestly didn't. His friends were all dead anyway, and it seemed like everything that he had loved was just taken from him. Once I had moved into my newest apartment, at least 100 or 200 miles passed from that disgusting town. I later read in the paper about the remains of Ryder and the other pups being discovered in the cave. However, the beast was nowhere in sight. The only thing that was there was a small, burnt-out gold crucifix on the ground. I took that paper and I immediately crumbled up and threw it out. I knew that I had to do as much as I can to defend Chase as much as I could. I knew that that thing was still out there. And whenever it rears its ugly fucking head to me again, I'm gonna be ready.
Alright, so, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Give me a second here. Okay. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. My name is PlayerPlayzZ. Peace out.